performance training PST, the bonus round number 2. Actually, I put together 14 different segments in the high performance training PST, and to round out the week, we have 14 different topics that you could listen to on an ongoing basis so that you could get what you need in terms of your high performance training. Today, we're actually going to talk about weight cutting. As an aside, there are other media by Coach Shannon that discuss some of the topics that we're talking about. On this particular version, High Performance Training PST, I try to give you a little bit more and or the advanced version. So if you listen to those other videos or watch some of those other segments, you can go from that one to this one. In other words, it'd be like step 1 on the first part and step 2 on this particular part. Some of the information does overlap, and again, I like to suggest that repetition is the mother of skill, and some people say repetition is the mother of learning. In other words, if you continue to be around and do and act upon something again and again and again and again, you are likely to ingrain, embed, and sort of memorize that particular object, subject, or whatever you're doing. Think about that for a couple of seconds and then we'll move forward. Okay, weight cutting. What's the purpose of it? I'll start off with some of the same information and then I'll elaborate, and then you can get more information on how this can be effective for you. One of the main reasons why people cut weight in weight class sports is to gain a strength advantage. So if we understand how we can gain strength advantages, and I'm going to use strength as a metaphor for a bunch of different areas. So strength can be physical strength, mental strength, strategical strength, technical strength, tactical strength, etc. Does that make sense? So if you now look at weight cutting from that sense, and I'm going to turn it upside down on its head so you can see all of the other areas that may be strengthened, you now will understand that if we only are looking for the physical strength advantage from weight cutting, we may be setting ourselves up for failure. And why do I say that? I say that simply because I've done a lot of weight cutting in my life, and I've done weight cutting not, if you will. So as an example, one time in my career I was cutting 10 to 15 pounds per week, and another time in my career I was cutting, if you will, 5 to 7 pounds. And I'll go into an explanation here right now. When you're cutting 10 to 15 pounds per week, typically you're in the yo-yo effect, meaning your body is like going up and down in terms of your weight, where you're going from one week to the next, actually losing weight and gaining weight, which causes your body's metabolism to slow down, and it causes your mind to crave certain types of food, certain types of liquids, and then it can really spiral your mind into, I don't know, it's really difficult to recover from. On the other hand, when you're cutting 6 to 7 pounds, 5 to 7 pounds per week, again, this is going to differ between everyone actually, but typically for me, when I was training, after I was an adult, after I was going through puberty, I would lose between 4 to 6 pounds per workout. And as I got older, we would train twice a day at the Olympic Training Center. We trained twice a day, so I'd be losing between 4 to 6 pounds, and then sometimes, I'd make weight like right after practice. So I'm suggesting that that's the area that you want to be around. You want to be within making your weight right after practice if you're losing 4 to 6 pounds per practice. I was a slighter person, small person. There were people bigger than me, and they would lose between 7 and 9 pounds per practice. Typically, the bigger your body mass is, the more you actually can sweat. So that's why I don't give real specifics on saying you should cut this amount, you should cut that amount, because different people drink more water and different people sweat more. For me, though, I'm suggesting that I lost 4 to 6 pounds, and sometimes, I was cutting between 5 to 7 pounds, which put me within striking range, right after practice every single day. Okay, so those are the other one, 15 pounds. If and it was, I wasn't within it. So even at the very, close end, when I was within 10 pounds, if I lose 6 pounds, and that was, typically I would lose 6 pounds if I was about 15 to 17 pounds over. As I got closer to the weight class, I would lose less weight, and people that have cut weight may experience that and know what I'm talking about. But let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, I lost 5 pounds and then I still had another 5 to go. Again, I'm suggesting that as I got closer to weight, I lost less and less weight. So I'm suggesting that you want to be within, 1 or 2 to 3 pounds after your workout, I think, all the time. And I think you can have a lot of success doing that. In other words, psychologically, you will be in a place where you're concentrating on some other things, like strengthening your mind, mastering your nutritional intake, getting stronger in the weight room, working on your technical and tactical, strategical skills. Again, I'm saying all of those areas can be strengthened along with understanding that your mind's probably the most important thing. So here I'm going to shift from weight cutting now to talking about some of the things we've talked about in the high performance training PST and other areas that I think are affected by the mind. Because weight cutting, I believe, is something that is controlled by the mind, as is everything else. If you think about it, when you go into the weight room, you're motivated, you're not motivated to train. When you go into the wrestling room, and you can be motivated or not motivated to train. When you're going to eat certain food, you can be motivated or not motivated to eat those. And the key, I guess, process for me and for something I want you to think about is they're all connected to your mind. In other words, you can be motivated and or unmotivated to do something, and then if you stop and think about that, you have to realize that the motivation comes from within. The motivation is what's driving you to do this, that, or the other. And because of that, I guess, statement, I suggest that it may be more important for you to find out areas and ways that you can actually become more motivated to do things. In other words, when your mind is involved, when you get highly engaged and highly, you can't wait to get it done, that's something special. In other words, I believe, and I want you to think about this, when you're actually motivated to do things, is it easier for you to do? Do you have more fun doing them? Or is it harder for you to do, and is it not so much fun? So think about that for a couple of seconds, all right? Again, going back to the theme around weight cutting, I believe if you strengthen all of the other areas around, drastic weight cutting, you don't have to weight cut. When I was at the Olympic Training Center as an athlete and a coach, they developed these groups of people called performance enhancement teams. In my mind, it was partially to deal with performance enhancing drugs, right? Around the 80s or the 90s, I think they came up with the term performance enhancing drugs to put all of the things that, that were illegal and Olympically banned and banned by the NCAA and banned by most national and state level sport groups, to suggest that you shouldn't be cheating and doing damage to your body to increase your ability in sport. On the flip side, at the Olympic Training Center, they believe that if you strengthen your nutritional awareness and sense, if you strengthen your body physically, if you get better in sport based on understanding periodization and volume and intensity and tapering and peaking, if you get technically better in your sport, all of those areas are going to affect your ability to have what I like to call high performance training. And if we understand that high performance training involves all of those topics that we've just talked about, now we can kind of not, put so much emphasis on losing so much weight, but we can put all of this extra energy that we're going to have now. Because if you're not losing a ton of weight, believe me, you have a lot more time and energy to do some other things that I can think can be more beneficial to your body and your mind. Now you'll have the opportunity to really hone in on getting stronger in the weight room, getting stronger technically and tactically and strategically with your skill set, making certain that you're working on your high performance training PST, which is your psychological skills, understanding imagery and self-talk and performance planning and goal setting, goal getting, I like to say, and energy management. So you understand that you basically can control your emotions with emotional discipline and self-control, which is going to give you a lot of, motivation to do all of the other things. I guess the last area I want to focus on with weight cutting is when you weight cut, and I said this again in Coach Shannon Talks, and with regard to that segment there on weight cutting, and this is a small portion of it, but I want to reemphasize it because I think it's important. If you are weight cutting, it affects your mind. It affects your mind and your body. Obviously, your body is affected because you can either gain mass or lose mass depending on if you're weight cutting or gaining weight. When you lose weight, though, it also affects your mind. Sometimes it can distract you from being nervous, which is a good thing if you don't like being nervous. However, it can also distract you from all of the other areas. Sometimes you have no ability to master other skills because you're spending so much time weight cutting. And again, I want to point you back to, why are people weight cutting? Traditionally, people weight cut to get a strength advantage. However, this is also historically true, I believe. Some people do the same things over and over again just because they've done them in the past. As you evolve, as you progress, as you develop in sport, and I suggest this is what everyone needs to do. I had to do it too. You need to start to ask yourself specific questions on why you're doing stuff. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the purpose, and is it working? And you may be saying, well, I've always done it this way, and this is the way, I don't know any other way. And that if that's your answer, then you got to really, stop and pause and ask yourself, could I do it another way? Because likely you probably could do it another way. With regard to weight cutting, again, getting back to the areas where I think it can actually damage your mind. Sometimes you believe that you cannot have success unless you weight cut. That's the number one area why I believe weight cutting should not, be a part of anyone's arsenal. With regard to all of the other topics that we've talked about in high performance training, principally your mind, psychological skills training, and then strength and conditioning in the weight room, and then strength and conditioning with regard to nutrition. If those areas are focused on, and then of course sport-specific training with strategic training, tactical training, and technical training, I suggest that weight cutting can be, it doesn't have to be a part of it, where you can do like I could do at the end of my career, where within one workout I can make weight. If you follow that pattern, you're likely going to have a lot more time and energy to focus on strengthening those other areas. Again, when you strengthen those other areas, you'll start to notice a change. This is a bonus round. This is a bonus day with regard to some of the other things that we've talked about. But because we are a weight class sport in wrestling, I think it's important to have a couple of different discussions with regard to weight cutting. Now, getting back to the point here, if we focus on all of these areas in HPT-PST, which stands for high performance training, psychological skills training, and we understand that we do not have to weight cut, and there are different ways, now we're going to have, again, a lot more energy and time, and we ultimately can become high performance training athletes.